Mayor, I want to thank you very much for being with us. We know that your state is set to reopen some non-essential businesses. We know that you've been very vocal, that you believe that now is not the time to do that. To critics who say we've got to reopen businesses and start at some point, what do you say?
Rena, it concerns me deeply that we are still seeing an upward trend in our state and that we are rushing to reopen businesses. As of 7 p.m. last night, we had a 4% increase in those who tested positive and nearly a 6% increase in deaths. And so we're not headed in the right direction. What I would say is that certainly there are real concerns related to our economy and people being able to get back to work. But I think as leaders, our responsibility is to make it more palatable for people to stay at home. Make sure that people are getting money in their pockets. Make sure we're doing things like we're doing in Atlanta, making it easy for people to get small business loans, staying evictions, suspending water bill payments, things like that, that will make it easier for people to stay at home. But when I look at our city, and I know that we have some of the highest asthma rates in the country. I know that beauty shops and barber shops on every corner in the African American community. I know that this is going to be deadly for many in our community. And what I've said is I hope that the governor is right and I'm wrong, because if he's wrong, more people will die.
Have you had a chance to speak directly to the governor? What have your conversations been like pushing back against this idea to reopen non-essential businesses?
The governor and I have worked very closely together on a number of issues, including his appointment of me to head our task force to make recommendations on our homeless population. But on this matter, we have not spoken. I've not spoken with the governor, neither has the mayor of Albany, Augusta, Columbus, Georgia, and many other cities throughout this state. I did receive a call, or my chief of staff received a call from his chief of staff today. And the governor and I are expected to talk over the next few days. So I look forward to speaking with him and sharing with him one-on-one what my concerns are for our communities. I understand, the governor wants the economy to get moving again, but the economy is something that concerns people, concerns those who are amongst the living. If our communities are dying and our hospitals are overrun and beyond capacity, like we've seen in other cities, then the economy will be the least of our concerns.
I think there are a lot of people who may be in your situation where the governor or somebody who might have a little bit more power believes that we should reopen. And on the local level, they don't feel like that is the right thing to do. What is your advice to leaders across this country who see that disconnect in leadership? How do they bridge the divide?
My advice to leaders across this country is to use your voice to speak on behalf of your communities. The reality is this: we will get to the other side of this. We are a resilient people. So we've seen hardships over the span of history, and we get to the other side of it. But we have to also learn those lessons. And as leaders, it's incumbent upon us to take actions that are in the best interest of our communities. And I don't know of anything that is more important than the health and wellness of our community. So my advice to leaders would be continue to use your voice to advocate for your communities. And what I've said to the people of Atlanta: don't listen to me. Don't listen to the governor. Don't listen to the president. Listen to the scientists. Listen to the public health professionals. Listen to the men and women who are going in our hospitals day in and day out. What are they saying? Their messaging is consistent, and it is please stay home to help save lives.
I want to read you, Keisha, sort of what the governor's Board of Cosmetology and Barbers, these are their recommended guidelines for businesses that are returning to work. And it says some of these requirements are: wear masks. They should consider giving masks to clients. They must wash their hands between clients. In a state where the virus has been so active, and you've even said Atlanta has one of the highest rates of asthma, you've got these professional people touching you. We're talking about exercising social distancing. How do these businesses that are so close in people's faces manage to stay open and do this responsibly? Is that even possible?
Rena, my mother owned a hair salon for nearly 25 years, and I sat in there day in and day out watching people get their hair done. I've never seen anyone receive a haircut from someone who stood 6 feet away from them. I think it's ridiculous. And as I thought of my mother, I thought of her trying to read through and understand and comply with OSHA guidelines. It's nonsensical. I am struggling as mayor of Atlanta to get PPE for my sanitation workers. We are bidding and competing with municipalities and states and the federal government just to get masks and gloves for our sanitation workers. So you now are expecting the barber to go out and compete in the open marketplace for masks for every customer who comes in. We have doctors and nurses who are saying to us that they are being exposed because they aren't adequately protected. Yet I expect the woman who does my nails to know how she is to clothe herself and her customers to provide a service. It doesn't make sense. I've tried to look at this from every angle possible, and it is illogical, and I think that it is irresponsible.
Keisha, your name has been mentioned as a potential VP pick for Joe Biden, the presumptive Democratic nominee. Tell me what you've learned in the past few months about leadership.
What I've learned about leadership is that it matters. And that's as simply as I can put it. We don't know what we will be faced with from one day to another as leaders, but you have to hope that you have people in place who one can think with their head, but also with their heart. We need leaders who are empathetic. We need leaders who are prepared for the unexpected. What I've learned, and I can't say this enough, it's reiterated something that I've known my entire adult life. Elections matter. It matters who we have in the highest office. It matters at every single level, because leadership is not just about leading for today, it's about leading for tomorrow. And you have to be prepared, and you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to know everything. But what you do have to be smart enough to do is to have smart people around you, and people who are thinking about things and advising you about things that you don't know about. And lastly, you have to surround yourself with people who will disagree with you. That's important. Groupthink is very dangerous.
And if the vice president chose you, would you accept the vice presidency?
You know, this is something that I would have to have a conversation with the vice president about. What I've said is I want the vice president to put on his ticket the person who he thinks will best equip him to win in November. And if he feels that I am that person, I would be honored to join his ticket. But if it's anyone else who is qualified and will help him take back the White House in November of 2020, then I certainly will respect that decision as well.